Hello. Hey guys, let me fix this energy right. I said the energy. Let me fix this lighting right quick. Hello, hello. You guys come on in as you need to. I'm just getting everything settled and ready for our girl chat on today. I'm so excited to have you guys. Um, yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. If you are here today, I want you to let me know who you are so I can see you. Put your where you're at or where you're located if you want to today, and what made you hop in on today's live. So I want you guys to put that in the chat. I'll also kind of remind you guys of what the question is on today. I'm so excited about today's topic. Number one, let's talk about that because just at the core of who I am the self care girl. Like, that's who I am. That's what I love. I am all about making sure that not only women, but also I think men can get caught up not taking care of themselves a lot. Men are very sacrificial by nature, too, but just in a different way than a woman. But because I am a woman, I love to really like recenter who we are, and refocus our energy and our time back on the beauty of what it means to love yourself, the beauty of what it means to love yourself. And so I have a few notes. Some of my notes are in my journal today, and some of my notes I have collected over my phone throughout the week for our chat this week. And I wanted to start off with a story, right? I wanted to start off with a story about how, for me, self love is at the core of everything and anything that you are going to do as an individual person. Self care and self love are at the core, and it is a foundational principle if you are going to fulfill what I believe is, the divine purpose that's put on your life, right? That one of the things, like, I don't know what everyone believes, of course, but you guys know who I am. One of the main things that even Christ and some of the elevated teachers in religious communities often talked about is that you cannot love other people outside of the way you love yourself. That how you love others, right, is a direct reflection of how you're loving yourself. And I want you to take a minute and think about that, because right now, if you look at like the state of your life, or you look at the state of your money, look at the state of your body, if you look at the state of how you're showing up in the world, maybe how you're dressing, if you look at your emotional state, would you say that you are actually loving and preferring yourself? And in today's live, we're going to get into what I believe is well, pretty much my definition of self love and self care and what it means to me. And then also, I want to hear, what does that mean to you? So as you're coming in on your lunch break, I want you guys to put into the chat, what does self love mean to you? What is the beauty of self love? What does that mean to you? So, one of the prongs for me for self love is, I believe that self love, when you find it, it is the one love outside of God's love that literally never goes away, right? That when you can locate what it means to have a certain affection, have a certain gentleness, have a certain preference, and have a certain desire for your life and for what God has done in your life, when you can begin to prefer that, when you can begin to settle into that, then what ends up happening is that finding that love is the love that literally it never goes away. And often in life, if you have had, like, let's say you grew up in a family. One of my friends, she she says it like this. She's like, "Girl, I grew up with a family of wolves. Like my family did not throw me to the wolves. They were the wolves, right? If you grew up like that, put it in the chat. If you grew up in a family like that, then put it in the chat for me and say, sis, I grew up in an environment that was sort of far away from the concept of love. And so for some of you, self-love is a really, really tough journey because you just never saw anyone do it. You never saw anyone putting forth what it takes, the type of energy and the type of relationship that I also think happens when you get your relationship with God together. You never saw anyone really connect to that. So you guys put that in the chat for me. But that's the first thing. The first prong of the definition or my understanding of self love is that when you find that love, that is definitely the one love that will always be with you. The second thing for me, when it comes to the beauty of self love, why I think self love is so beautiful, and why I think it's very inspiring, especially as a woman, to begin that journey in loving yourself, is that at the end of the day, love is the most powerful energy in the whole wide world, right? That um, the concept of love has literally inspired people to build monuments. It has inspired good things and negative things. On the negative side of things, love has inspired wars, right? Men have literally gone to war sometimes over the woman and the thing that they, or the country or the territory that they love the most. That love is the most powerful energy on the face of the planet, right? And even in religious systems, God is often called love, that God is love. It is the greatest power and it is the greatest source of energy that ever existed. And so when you are thinking about the beauty of self-love, taking this power, and at its core to me, and I think there are other definitions to this. We all define love differently, but love at its core is a preference for something, right? It is just to prefer something, right? So I currently for an example right now, I currently have one of my preferred mugs that I have my coffee. Y'all tell me if y'all are drinking tea or coffee in the chat, but I have one of my preferred mugs right here, right? And this is my Spelman College mug, right? And that's, you guys know, I went to Spelman. My husband went to Morehouse, and so they are an all Spelman is an all girls school right across the street from Morehouse, which is an all boys school, which is how we met. And so I have literally one of my favorite mugs here. I prefer this mug. I love this mug, right? I have other mugs in my house. You guys have seen me on some of the more previous chats as well. Bring the other mugs that I enjoy, but this has to be one of my all-time favorite mugs. And so at its core, love is about what we prefer. And the thing about love is those things that you attach yourself to, the beauty of self-love. When you don't take One of the things that I know for women is that we have a tendency, and you guys tell me in the chat if you have seen this or not. We have a tendency to take our energy and preference of love, and we send it outwards a lot, right? So you'll put your preference of energy into your kids, you'll put your preference of energy into your family, you'll put your preference of energy into keeping your car clean. If you're like me, I like to have a clean car. And I have often seen where women will just bypass themselves, right? You'll bypass you, the person. And one of the things about self love that I find to be extremely powerful is that when you take that energy and you reconnect it like back to yourself, right? When you bring it back into your body, back into how you're showing up in the world, I think one of the core things after you truly begin to love yourself is you absolutely put time and attention towards your self-care, which we're enrolling for the self-care queen course right now. And I put the link already for those of you who are watching the replay. I put the link already in the chat, and I'll also make sure to pin that link. But once you get your preference together for yourself, the very next thing that begins to flow is your love for taking care of yourself. So once you love yourself, you start to love your self-care routines. You start to elevate those self-care routines, and you start to understand that how you show up in the world is a direct reflection of number one, and number two, the how you can love other people, the quality of love that you'll bring to other people. If I'm honest, let me get grounded and get honest with y'all, because this is girl talk, right? As if I'm honest, when I see people who don't take care of themselves well, I often question what type of love are they going to direct my way. I'm actually a little bit like, I don't know. Like, I don't necessarily want a person to like sacrifice their entire being loving me, right? Because what I found is when a person does that, they often end up resentful. They often end up looking at you and being like, "Oh my God, I poured all this energy into you. Now I'm lacking." I tend to value those relationships where people understand that the preference of who and what God made you to be, when you lock into that, when you zone in and lock into that, and you begin to fulfill that, you begin to allow who God made you to be to come out in a genuine, loving, free flowing, expansive way. When that occurs, those people tend to be the people that love the best. And if you're here, I know some of you are watching, just put in the chat if you agree, thumbs up. Make sure also that you like this video. If you're watching the replay, you like it, you comment, and also share with your community so that this channel can grow. If you think that this message needs to get out to more people, then thank you, and make sure that you do your part in allowing this kind of content to grow. I know that was the second prong, and we're going to get into the third prong of what I kind of consider to be fundamental to the beauty of self love, and to why I think that is foundational to you living a wonderful life. Um, but what I've seen is that, like, let's say I know I have family members, and you guys tell me if this is true for you. I come from a very large family, right? And in my family, I have women and men that tend to take care of their emotions. They travel, they eat great foods, they live in neighborhoods that they like, they have a wonderful life. And those family members, I know for me, I am drawn to them in a way that I am not drawn to the family members that are always like, girl, woe is me, my life is down. They're always drinking, or they're always mad at something, or the vices of their life basically overtake who they are, the beauty of who they are. You let me know if you're like that. Like, I tend to want to be around the family members that are laughing, and the family members that have a certain level of animation to who they are. They make me come alive, right? And when it comes to the concept of self-love, a lot of times you get this, yeah, I avoid them at all costs. Straight avoid. You like, oh, not today. Life is, we already have enough going on in life whereby we don't necessarily always want that energy, right? It's not to say you don't love them. You can love them. Some people don't love them. Like, some people really like, girl, I can't stand that aunt, right? But if you have gone on your healing journey to a certain level, very often you are really saying like, okay, I we don't jug, right? We don't mix well. And it's the auntie that you walk up and you hug them and you kiss them on the cheek and say, love you, and you go on about your business. Okay. And they're right. Those relationships tend to be so heavy. Those relationships tend to be weighty on you. And we are looking to it when you're looking at living an elevated life, you want a lighter life, right? You want a life that's free flowing, and you want a life that feels good, especially if you're a woman. Especially if you're a woman, we tend to really resonate with things that are like energetically, they make us feel good, right? And I know for me, I will often find myself at this stage of life asking myself, does this feel good? Like, me wanting or not wanting to do something, unfortunately, sometimes doesn't even have anything to do with like my word at the moment. It doesn't even have anything to do with like um I was excited in the moment. It has to do with like, does this really feel good? Like, who's gonna be there? You know how we are as women, like, who gonna be there? And you're asking those questions because at the end of the day, your time has to be, you have to choose where you're putting your time to, and you want to allocate your time to experiences that are truly going to put into you and not drain you. And so at the end of the day, that's one of the most important things. The third thing that I want to say about the beauty of self love and why I think it's foundational to you living an elevated lifestyle and getting to the place where your visions are actually becoming your reality, you're actually manifesting those things, is the concept that is a core concept to self love, and it's what I haven't really named it. I've named it several different things over the years, but it's basically called like um the core, right? It's the core of who you are. And when it comes to self-love being beautiful, one of the things that I want you to think about, especially if you're watching this video at any time and you have had some serious trauma in your life, right? So maybe you've had trauma in your sexual essence, the sexual essence part of your life. I don't want to, YouTube will flag us for certain words, so I don't want them to like flag the video. But maybe in your sexual health, you've had some trauma, or you've had some trauma. Like for me, poverty, I grew up with a bit in a very deep poverty consciousness. That is trauma because that is not how God created you as his child, as his daughter to live. He is a king who owns the whole earth, right? Jesus was and you guys know I'm a Christian, but Christ was the type of person that took lack and made it much, right? He's not a God of poverty, especially not living in poverty for forever. So I got my start in poverty because of the brokenness of the world, right? Because of things going on in this world. And people not being just in transactions when it came to the exchange for work and money. But at the end of the day, what has made me commit to really coming out of those pits emotionally and mentally for myself has been to know that that's not God's perfect will for me. That was not the creator's intent, right? So I had a lot of trauma around work, over giving, all of that kind of stuff, being under rewarded. And my husband was actually a very, very key person in uplifting that part of me and teaching me um, new ways, and also just being a major instrument in my rich girl life and rich girl energy. He has led that and has been such a stable force in that. For me, it should have been my dad who laid that foundation, but you guys know my father wasn't in my life in that way. Men lay the foundation for deep provision. That's one of God's major like wills for the man. Like they naturally provide, they naturally want to work, they have testosterone, right? So my dad should have laid that foundation for my life, but he did not. He was not there. Amen. I know, look, don't get me to preaching. Amen. Yes. So that was what was supposed to happen. But for my life, God graced my life, whereby provision was through my mom as a single parent, through the community, my friends, all sorts of other people came together. Even some of the guys that I dated at the time, provision, God still provided. It's just the person he meant to use at that moment decided they didn't want to be used in that way. That was my bio dad. Nevertheless, it had certain traumas in my life that I've had to confront. So maybe your traumas were in other areas. Maybe you witnessed violence growing up a lot. You grew up in a really bad area of the country, right? Like if you grew up in inner city Chicago in certain parts, if you grew up in certain parts of New York, Brooklyn, you may have seen a lot of violence, and that contributed to trauma. Trauma in and of itself literally puts you deep into survival mode. And this conversation, until you go through certain stages of your healing journey, will not resonate. This idea of self love, when you go through trauma, it takes that God given spark and that God given life that you may even see in other people. And you'll be sitting there like, well, why I ain't got that? Well, very often it's because there's something that shut that down in your life, some sort of programming, some sort of experience that shut that down in your life that is awakened in other people's lives. That's why God has us to be a social group and a social being, right? We're a social animal group, and we're heavily social, which social media unfortunately is taking us away from being even more social in some instances, but in instances like this it puts us together. So let me take a moment, I'm gonna take a drink and see what you guys are saying, see if you have any questions about what we talked about so far. Y'all know I'm a lawyer, so I have words for days. Fun note, I have my water here. It's not fancy today. Y'all know some days I'm fancy and some days I'm practical. We got a bottle of water in case I started coughing. It said I joined a little late. Can you please tell me the first 2 points again? Oh, you know what? The first 2 points are we may I may you may have to, I know the love part. We may have to go back and listen to just that first part because I was talking so much. The first one, and I did not write them down in order. And so some of it I was talking and some of it I wasn't. So we may have to go back to the first part. I'm sorry. Look, my notes are kind of like all over, and I'm like, where was number one? So I'm picking them up from here. Oh, y'all know I get into sometimes when you're creating, I like order, but sometimes when I'm doing this purpose work, God will just have it'll come all kind of ways. And I'm just like, what you talking about, God? Like, all right, so but I'll go back and make sure to try to renumber them or have them renumbered. If you do go back or if you're listening to this later and you did number them in your notes, please put it in the chat for the ladies who are coming behind us because that's a good point. So, number three, we were talking back to the core, back to the part about it being the core with your the beauty of self-love, right? So if you're coming from those traumatic experiences, if you're coming from trauma in different places and you're trying to get back to the core of who you are and you're trying to get back to the core of what it really means to love yourself and find beauty in that, find beauty in showing up in that good space energetically too, then one of the things that I do is the core exercise. And that core exercise is really about reconnecting the things that make me innately worthy as a human being, right? So, mean, and I'm closing my eyes right now because this is literally what I do. But what makes me innately worth love as a human being is the things that, if you believe in God, God has gifted us and just grants us because we're living, or a higher power grants it, or grace, or serendipity, whatever you want to say. And one of those things is our breath. So my core exercise is I will sit, and if I'm really struggling with finding beauty in my life or finding beauty in my love, I'll sit and I'll just rethink on my breath. I may even just breathe. I'm talking right now, so clearly I'm using my breath, but I may just breathe for a while and begin to express a certain level of gratitude to God for my breath, because your breath alone is a divine signal that you are loved, that you are wanted here. The challenge for me with self love is not becoming selfish. We're going to get into that because I think that's a lot of people. A lot of people struggle with where's the line for between self love and selfish. And so coming back to like the love part, I always, in kind of answering that question, one of the things I do is I reconnect it like back to God, right? Something connected to God is not in a selfish place, right? When we are more connected to our egos, right? The ego is that part of you that is not the id awareness of yourself. Self awareness is good, but the ego in the negative sense is when you are literally moving outside of this place of love and gratitude, and you've actually gotten more hungry for love and moving your attention outside of things that are supposed to bring love and energy into you. A lot of times when you've gotten into your ego self, that is when you start to enter into those places where you're more selfish, you're turning people off with your concept of self-love and different things like that. When you have lost that connection to the divine, very often that is when you kind of have to watch yourself, watch your shadow self coming out of your ego, and you begin to do things that are not in alignment with you loving yourself. One thing that I know too is it feels very differently for me when I'm in a selfish state. Like when I'm in a selfish state, And I know some people say, "Oh, well, sometimes you got to be selfish." Well, yeah, if you went too far on the overgiving side, you may have to go back to your selfish side a little bit in order to restore balance, right? But at the end of the day, you want to live in a certain harmony with self-love. But one thing that I know is when I'm too far in my selfish state, I begin to feel isolated or alone. Tell me if that's true for y'all. Tell me if that's something that you guys have found. Like, I'll literally be like, I'm feeling a bit lonely or I'm feeling a bit isolated, right? And self-love actually um is an opening and an expansive thing. It's not an isolating thing. So the more you find yourself kind of moving into those spaces where you're not socially connecting, everybody getting on your nerves. I don't know if you've been like that, like, oh, I don't want to talk to her. Oh, I don't want to talk to her. She gonna do this and he gonna do that, and this is gonna do that. Well, is it everybody, sis? Right? If everybody is getting on your nerves and frustrating you, that is a sign sometimes that you have gotten too far in your overgiving stage. So maybe you were in a good place of self-love and your energetic boundaries were not healthy. So you began to overgive and now you're depleted. And now you're back in this selfish kind of isolated stage. Is everybody, LOL. Yes, it's everybody. And so that's one of the ways that I naturally kind of, it's an internal discernment. Like if I'm feeling like this don't feel good, then I know I'm probably moving more into my selfish state that's not healthy. Again, I do think there are times like for women who have uh, been in that, you've been a super deep people pleaser, right? You kind of everything somebody wants you to do, you say yes. There's a time and a season where you may have to look selfish in order to pull resources back to loving you. Anytime you have neglected yourself, this is the second thing I'll say. Anytime you have neglected yourself for a long period of time, at the end of the day, that's not self love either. So you have to watch both. You have to watch the self neglect, and then you have to watch the selfishness. And my husband calls it the pendulum swing. I don't know if he's watching or not today, but he calls it the pendulum swing. He may watch it later. I don't know if he has patience or not. So that is the core exercise that I do. As I go back to the things that I cannot like get rid of, the things that I know have come from God and God has said this is why you deserve to be loved. Another one is I think about blood running through my body. I don't control that, right? I don't control my breath. I don't control blood running through my body. I don't control the blinking of my eye. Th- that is literally the grace of you being here. And that grace should be where you start if you ever find yourself struggling to prefer who you are, because there is something that's higher than you, bigger than you, that wants you here, and you have something that you have to do. So reconnecting back to that becomes important, which is why we are I have opened the enrollment to my self-care queen course for those of you who are coming and who are coming behind us. I already pinned it in the course as the first comment. I'll try to pin it again on this. Let me see if I can get to the link quickly. But at the end of the day, we are now enrolling in the self-care queen course. And what's awesome about this course and what I'm really loving about how God has already outlined it is that this course is dedicated to those of us who are truly um, wanting to elevate this part of our lives, right? So you guys know I have beginner level courses, and then I have courses for those of you who are in that intermediate to advanced level. And this course is about those women who are at that stage where either because of your age or your standing in society or your social standing in society, you are supposed to literally be at a more elevated level when it comes to your self-care. But for whatever reason, life and you have found yourself like diminished in this capacity, right? So you want to be showing up with a better energy. You want to be showing up in a more advanced way. Maybe you're a professional woman and your job and your title promote it, but because the husband acting up, the kids acting up, mom and them want everything, et cetera, you've neglected that. Um, I want you to consider enrolling in this course. And what we're going to do is this first cohort is going to be a 12-week um it's going to be 12 weeks of us meeting every single week. We'll meet through Zoom. Right now, we're meeting through YouTube. But I want it to be a group cohort. The first group to be a cohort, and we're going to meet weekly on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Right now, Tuesdays at 1 p.m. And we are going to get together and we're going to relay the foundation for an elevated self care routine. We're going to talk about what it means to be top 10%, top 15%, in that top 15% of women who are earning well, who are married, who are navigating more challenging circumstances because so many areas of their life are developed and require your attention. We're going to talk about how do we make sure that we don't lose ourselves in the demands of that type of life? And I also want to make sure I'm not isolating my other followers because I know some of you follow and watch this and you're at the beginning of your self care journey or you're younger. For you, you may not have as many areas of your life developed out yet. And so, meaning if it's just you and you're a student in college, right? You don't have a man, you don't have no kids, you don't have none of that. You ought to be literally learning everything that you can about your skincare. You need to know the type, the what is your skin type, what type of products are great for you. You should be learning what type of jewelry you love to wear. So right now I'm wearing a pearl set. Fun story. My husband got me this pearl set when we were dating. We had this whole little fun thing planned out for my friends at Spelman. We went to his apartment one day and it was a surprise. I did not know they were there. And he had them, we had dinner and all this other stuff. And then he did a scavenger hunt for me to find all of these sets, all of these parts of my first set of pearls. So this is the first set of pearls he bought me years ago. These pearls are probably almost 20 years old, just almost as old as young as our relationship, right? As young, forever young. Um, but I had to answer a question about my relationship with them and my relationship with Curtis in order to get a clue to find out where the next part of the pearls were. So that was a fun thing. With these sets of pearls here, but as a young person, um, absolutely. Bye, love y'all as y'all come in and out for lunch. Yes, yes, thank you for stopping in. But that's the set of pearls. But if you are in your beginning stage, and I'll talk about our elevated self-care queen stage in a moment, those are the things that you are focusing on, laying that great foundation, learning your perfumes. You may not be at the stage last week I shared with you one of my favorite perfumes. You're not at the stage where your budget allows for that, but you're at your Vince Camuto, or you may even still be at your Bath and Body Works stage if you're watching me super young, because God, y'all got phones out here, y'all in the third grade. I'm just like, honey, it could be an 8-year-old. I don't know. But you're at that stage. Invest in the fun aspects of self-care before you start getting over here to elevated queen. As the elevated queen, you have a wealth of years very often, that you have invested in your self-care, but now you're at the stage where it's not so much about laying that foundation as much as it is whereby you have to know how to move in the midst of all that you have built. You have to know how to get your face protein mask in within a 15-minute window, right, on a Tuesday, right? And that be your 15 minutes if that's what you have today and you commit to that. At the self-care queen level, we are talking about energetically making sure that we are continuing to prioritize ourselves and that we are efficient at that, right? So you have the energy and the efficiency because God has you managing more things right now, right? You're at that queen level, so you're managing people. I know for our household, we just hired another virtual assistant for one of our businesses, and so at the end of the day, I have her now on my team that I would have to check in with weekly and make space for what's going on in that business. And so, but what I know in the self-care queen stage is it's about the redistribution of our energy. And for many of us as women, some of us cannot rise to our queen level. Like we know all of this foundational part, right? We done read the books, we have um uh read the journals, we know the statistics, we have the degrees, we have the husband, we have the kids, we have the family, but now you just running around like a chicken with your neck cut off. Don't nobody want that, right? Like we don't I know I don't. That exhausts me at this stage. So as the queen, you have to begin to build systems. And very often, if you have a husband that's really great at doing that, I know I have one. My husband has taught me a lot about systems. Men are really great at this. It's one of the reasons that if you come to my channel, we're not men bashing over here. Even if you have some struggles in your relationships with men, I'm not saying you don't have struggles, but we talk about men in a more elevated capacity because there's a lot of great things that men have brought to the table. And I know for me, my husband is a great systems person. He gonna get a routine. He gonna put a routine. He gonna get it together. He's gonna have a system, right? Whereby I may be a little like, I'm free flowing today. I'm in my feminine energy. I'm not doing a system. I'm not doing a routine. So our household is able to continue to move forward because you have the presence of both. And so, one of the things in your elevated queen stage is, and your self care queen stage is you want to be able to sit down and understand how can I best become the reciprocal for the things that I want, right? So you, as as an elevated person, as a person who is in an elevated stature in life, and I'm not only talking about your career. So some of you hear this and you think, oh, because that is a lawyer, she's saying this. No, if you are a wife, if you are a mother, you are in an elevated position in life. That is mother is an elevated position. Whether you are behaving in your high value queen energy or not in that elevated position is a different story. But if you're a mother, if you're a wife, if you are a professional, if you are a team lead, all of those, if you're a boss in any kind of capacity, or if you're in leadership in any kind of capacity in church, you are in an elevated position and you want to show up in that energy in as much as possible. And the thing that's important for me with our self-care queen work, and for those of you who are going to enroll in the course, it's important to make this stuff fun. Right? So let's talk about, um, in the course, one of the biggest components that I think elevated women lose, and one of the reasons, quite frankly, and I don't know if you 2, y'all tell me if you agree or not in the chat, but a lot of women find themselves being like the first wife because you don't know how to keep incorporating fun and lightheartedness into your elevated life. Some women get too far in their masculine, even if you are a stay-at-home mom. Even if you are a stay-at-home mom, you get too far into that, "I gotta go, I gotta get the kids from here, get the kids from there, I gotta do this, I gotta do that." That your man is just like, "I want peace. I want chill," right? Where's the chill, fun energy? I can get that at he doesn't wanna come home to that. And your self-care when your elevated self-care habits and routines do not include, the deep place for rest, it does not include you scouting as a queen and as a woman finding new elevated, pleasurable experiences for you and your family to attend and engage upon. For example, these are things we're gonna talk about in the course, things we're gonna deal with in the course, and things we're gonna plan out in the course. So for instance, one of the more elevated, things that my husband and I are doing, soon is in April, we're going to Carnival for Jamaica, right, in Jamaica. And that came about because of one of my relationships with a business friend. Hey, Abigail, I don't know if Abby's gonna watch this or not, but hey, Abigail, she's Jamaican, and we were talking at lunch one day. She was like, Natasha, you gotta come with my family to Carnival. You gotta do this. We're gonna do this. And I was just like, ooh, Carnival with someone who's local? Absolutely. Yes. So she has taken me under her wing and like shown me. Well, now everything's planning stages, but we're almost done. But my costume, the band, I think that's what it's called. If you Jamaican and you're from the islands, y'all let me know. This is all new to me. So I've only been to one carnival and it's in my city where I'm located, and it was like last year. So this is my first time being introduced to carnival. And apparently Jamaica and Trinidad are where you want to like really go. I think we did take the tail end of carnival for a trip we took to St. Lucia for our 10-year anniversary, but we didn't know it was carnival, right? It was like the back end, and like we just didn't know. I think it was like the last day we were able to attend like a street party or something. But we're doing full out carnival, right? And that's the idea of celebration and elevation that you want to bring into your household. You want to have that energy as a queen, whereby um, when your husband is looking to have fun, he don't have fun in other places more than what it is that he thinks of with his woman, right? And if you don't have a husband physically on the earth, you have a kingly husband, God, right? You have God as your husband. And so at the end of the day, maybe your faith doesn't allow you to celebrate in this kind of way. Because I understand with Christians, some of y'all may be listening and being like, girl, I don't know, I'm not comfortable with carnival, the outfits, or whatever. And I respect that. I absolutely respect it because that, some of the outfits can for some people, activate other issues that they have in other parts of their lives. That's not a persuasion that I take, but at the end of the day, whatever that fun looks like to you, it could be the trip to Disney World. You should be bringing that amazing fun celebration energy as the self-care queen, right? You should be producing experiences that people are like, "Yes, I wanna go there. I wanna go with that," right? So right now, Beyonce is coming on tour. I am pulling together, hopefully a really nice experience. It'll be either for my friends or for you guys. Actually, I may open it up to my audience for you guys to purchase tickets if some of my friends are not able to go. But I'm working on now, a great Beyonce experience, like, we're gonna do it in Lashes style, we're gonna go see that's gonna be the culmination of it, but I'm working on what that looks like right now since Queen Bee just announced her tour. So all of these things are the energy and the power that you want to bring to your life, especially while you still have a certain level of youthfulness and while you still have a certain level of fun. Like, life should not be dull with the queen. Why? So you guys tell me, comment in the video. I mean, let me see what you're saying. What are your thoughts about bringing fun to your self-care life and also to your self-care queen life? All right, I'm just taking a moment to look back at my notes, child. I know I didn't forget stuff. I got off kind of off. So yes, going back to our notes, and let me make sure I pick up my phone and get here to. So in closing out, we have a few more minutes. We're gonna close out within the next few minutes, ladies. I wanted to just really come back to making sure that we had our understanding of why that you self-love like really becomes important and um, what it looks like. And so I know for a lot of you guys, you're high achievers. And one of the thoughts that I had about us high achievers, because I'm a high achiever, right? And when I say that in your career, it's the boss babe energy. When you're a high achiever, you have to be really careful to not assume that being a high achiever makes you a wife, right? That's something we're going to deal with in our self-care queen course, and it's more elevated. The price I think is right at 1,000, a little bit over $1,000, and we do have payment plans for that. So you guys can I think you can do up to 3 payment plans, 12 weeks, so you can pay monthly. But we're going to talk about in that course why being a high achiever does not automatically make you a wife. For those of you who follow me that are high achievers and, you know, you consider yourself to be more progressive maybe as a sometimes people say the word feminism, or maybe you're not all the way into feminism, but you would maybe call yourself a feminist, but you are really silently also wondering, "Well, why am I not a wife? Like, I'm a powerful woman." There's some how feminists did certain things right in terms of, helping women think about the treasury and the account and making major moves there for us to be able to garner resources, but it happened at the expense of you becoming a wife. So we have examples in history where women were able to do both, and that's where I want to see our culture merge at the next level. I'll talk about also the Queens of the Nile. Ooh, I don't know if that intrigues any of you, but the Queens of the Nile was, um I've studied queens a lot, and because I am, an African American, it's always been interesting to me how the queens served in kingdoms and what roles they played, and so you're building your queendom in a kingdom, right? Men have that primary foundational role whether you want them to or not. Men typically lead your country. So even if you don't have a husband, there's a king at play. We have not had a female president in our country. So I don't want you to have this harsh understanding of men, but what is the queen's role in the kingdom? How does the queen build, um, beauty and all of that in the kingdom that she's dealing with and what she's doing? So we're gonna talk about the queens of the Nile. We're also gonna talk about this concept of earning money. One of the most beautiful places you can find yourself in as a woman is when, yes, you may want to earn money, but you don't need to. This is not only about your concept or your relationship with men, right? So some women think, "Oh, Dot, you're saying this because you're a fully provided for wife." No, I want women to get to a place whereby whether you're a fully provided for wife or not, that we are not bound by this energy of like, "I wanna earn money, I wanna hustle." If you are a single parent, if you are a woman who is navigating life as a single woman, I want you to begin to take on this more feminine perspective with your money, whereby you are earning, making, saving, keeping, and investing and growing money, um, in a way whereby it's because you want to, not because you need to. Have those 3 financial principles really unlock in your life, whereby you can sit in your feminine energy regardless if you have a physical husband in your life or not. We're also gonna talk about in this course, how to enjoy that season of life where you are collecting and cashing checks, okay? Being able to see the fruit of your work come to fruition into your bank account is a real energetic, transition that some and I wanna talk about, like, how do you get yourself in that environment where it's like, "Child, I'm enjoying this season of collecting checks, cashing checks," because some women cannot receive at such a deep level that they will not let people purchase their services. They will not invite people into cohorts the way I'm inviting you into the Self-Care Queen course. They will not set up the parameters to have people who love your content work with you on a deeper level or further because you can't receive money with. So we're gonna talk about that in the Self-Care Queen course, how you deliver those services and the role that money plays in a woman's self-care, routine and habits that very often you're not gonna be able to get to an elevated self-care routine if you are still addicted to your poverty girl mentality because you won't be able to afford it. A self-care routine, yes, there's an emotional part and journaling and all of that, and of course, that's just work. But then you get on the grounded level, it takes resources to purchase a dress, to get the nails done, right? So how do we overcome all of that fear around money? We're also going to be talking about what it means to run your life like a queen and not a peasant, not a slave girl. Your slave girl energy. Remember, I earlier in the video, I talked about how as a woman, if you're a young girl, have fun, like learn makeup, learn your skin, play around with jewelry, costume jewelry, small jewelry, all of it. Know what's good on you when you move to your elevated positions in life, right? But once you're elevated and you have access to all of that stuff, you easily find yourself ripping and running to different parts of your life and you don't have that full presence because your energy is like always outward to something else. You never learn how. build the proper systems to run your life like a queen and not a peasant, right? And of course, when I say this, it doesn't mean that there aren't gonna be times when you're not rushed, right? So I don't want you guys to think, like, if you have questions about what I'm saying, just put it in the chat for me. It's not an impractical thing of like, "Oh, okay, well, I had to get out the door today, and it was I overslept, and we only had 20 minutes to get out the door, so I was a bit more in my alpha energy or my rush energy." Of course, that happens, that's life, right? But if you're living your life like that every day, then your energy is reflecting that, whereby you're not settled and more into your power as a woman. So we're gonna talk about how do we put those systems in place. Also, one of our weeks is going to be dedicated to y'all let me know if this title is not it, right? Let me know if it's like, "No, girl." But you're moving like a man, that's why you can't keep going. Self-care, like, for many women who are attracted to my work, you guys want divine, you want to be married, you want to be a wife. Some women don't, that's okay too. You're more than welcome here as well, but I will communicate a lot in that way. We will get into how your self-care habits actually, like, help you to not move like a man. Your self-care habits should help you move like a woman, right? So a man often goes to the barbershop to get his hair cut, right? You go to the beauty salon to get your hair cut, or if you have a shorter hairstyle, you may go to a barber to get your hair cut. But there are certain things that as a woman you do that show you're moving in that vein. You want to be, considered as a man's wife, right? And so we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about how to bless your budget, deal with, my whole channel deals with only 3 things: your self-care habits, your, romantic relationship, and then also your romantic relationship, and then also your money, because that's core and foundational. I feel like a lot of other things fall into place, your friendship, all sorts of other things fall into place if you can get those 3 areas together. So during this course, we'll talk about what it means to bless your budget and bring confident energy there into that space of um, spending your money on what you actually wanna spend it on, right? When it comes to your habits, if like for me, I know I enjoy certain, very specific products for my body. My budget is allocated towards those things, right? So that I'm not getting caught up spending money on something that I really don't like, doesn't work for my personal experience. Also, we're gonna talk about the soft life, right? That's a current popular term in the world. We're gonna talk about what does the soft life mean to an elevated woman? What does it really look like when you are a woman who is still powerful in other areas of her life, has power in other areas of her life as a mom, as a professional, as whatever, but she still wants to live a soft life primarily because that is her essence. What does that look like? And then, finally, we're going to, on the tail end of the course, talk about what it means to actually not hide your beauty, not hide your gifts, not hide all of the beautiful things that God has done. What does it mean to quit hiding those things, but really allow yourself to go high in them? And so that's going to be, what we're doing in the self-care stage. It's beautiful for women who are it'll be beautiful for women who are single or women who are literally like, "I'm ready to be a wife," or "I'm a wife, and it's time to get rid of some of this dead energy that I've been carrying around." And so during that, time, we'll talk all things of love and how do we really ground ourselves there. And so at the end of the day, I have that course already pinned into this, chat or in the chat. So you guys go take a look at it. If you have any questions, email us at gmail.com. We'll go from there. We'll meet on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. for all of the live sessions. I'll also pre-record sessions, so if that week isn't looking good for you guys, like emails or whatever, you guys say, "Hey, I don't wanna go live, um, or I won't be able to make it live," then I'll make sure to pre-record those sessions. The other thing is that I have a lot of videos that have to still be to some of these courses. The actual school is up, so you'll be able to go to the other courses that I have available right now. My online school is up, and so, it's creation process, it is what it is, so I'm just so excited about it. Make sure you like this video. If you have stayed to the end, like the video, um, comment below, let me know what you think about the beauty of self-love. Let me know where you are in your self-care queen journey, if you are at a beginner to intermediate stage or if you're intermediate to elevated. I want to know where you are in your stages, and so I'm so excited about what the future holds for you ladies, and also for us. I know that I love you, and I'm always, you guys are always in my thoughts. All right, bye.